The sun had barely risen over the sleepy town of Brooksville when Emily Carter, 19, walked into the upscale Fairhill Plaza holding a mop in one hand and hope in the other. Her hands were calloused, her jeans faded, but her eyes shimmered with quiet determination. She had taken the night shift cleaning floors just to help her ailing mother who was undergoing chemotherapy. Her father had passed away 2 years ago, and Emily had been juggling 2 jobs and community college ever since. Each night, she quietly cleaned the marble floors, invisible to the world she worked in. No one saw the girl who wiped their shoe prints off the glass or cleaned the bathrooms they left behind in a rush. But Emily never complained. She believed that one day, kindness would find its way back to her. Until then, she kept her head down and worked hard. But this morning was different. As she walked across the front plaza toward her shift, a sleek black Bentley screeched into the parking lot. Mud flew from its tires. And in one brutal splash, Emily was soaked. She froze, stunned, mud dripping down her shirt. The window of the Bentley rolled down slowly. Out peered Vanessa Wellington, a woman in her early 40s, wearing pearls and a scowl. Known in town for her fortune, fashion, and ruthlessness, Vanessa looked down her nose at Emily and sneered. "Well, maybe you should learn where not to stand, mop girl," she said coldly, before rolling the window back up and speeding off. Emily stood still, humiliated, trembling. Not because of the mud, but because of the shame. But what Vanessa didn't realize, was that someone had been watching from across the street. And his heart was breaking. From inside a quiet, modest diner across the street, James Montgomery, a man in his early 60s with a kind smile and eyes that had seen too much, had watched the entire scene unfold. He was seated at his usual corner booth, sipping black coffee and reviewing the final plans for the new Montgomery Youth Center he was building downtown. James had built his fortune from scratch. He had once been homeless in his 20s, picking up odd jobs to survive, just like the girl outside. And now, decades later, he had quietly become one of the town's most generous philanthropists, never revealing his identity to the press. He believed kindness worked best when no one was watching. But today, he couldn't remain silent. He watched as the girl stood frozen in the cold morning, her face streaked with mud and tears. And then she slowly turned around, shoulders slumped, and disappeared into the building. James clenched his coffee cup tighter. His mind flashed back to his own past, to the day someone had spat on him outside a fancy hotel and called him a nobody. That moment had lit a fire inside him. And now, seeing history repeat itself, he knew he had to do something. But not out of revenge. Out of justice. Out of love. Out of belief that every soul, no matter how hidden in society's shadows, deserved to shine. He paid his bill, left a generous tip as always, and stood up. The wheels in his mind were already turning. The janitor's closet was dimly lit, with a cracked mirror and a small locker filled with Emily's worn uniform. She sat on a plastic stool, wiping the mud from her shirt with shaky hands. It wasn't just about the incident, this was one humiliation too many. She had faced whispers, rude customers, and classmates who laughed when she wore the same shoes for a year. She looked into the mirror. "I'm not trash," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm not what she thinks I am." There was a photo tucked inside her locker door, her mom, smiling despite the tubes and hospital gown, holding a hand-drawn card Emily made when she was 10. Her mother's strength kept her going. Just then, her friend Maria, another cleaner, walked in. She gasped at Emily's appearance. "What happened?" Emily explained, trying to laugh it off. "Rich lady with a Bentley thought I was in the way." Maria clenched her fists. "Some people don't know what it's like to work for everything. But one day, they'll wish they had your heart." Emily didn't believe that. Not today. James returned to his office and summoned his assistant Daniel. "I want the name of every businesswoman who drives a black Bentley in this town. Get me the security footage from Fairhill Plaza this morning." Quietly. Daniel looked puzzled. Sir. I need to know who she is. Hours later, the name landed on James' desk, Vanessa Wellington. CEO of Wellington Interiors. Inherited wealth, public image polished, reputation, questionable. James narrowed his eyes. I want to visit her showroom tomorrow. As a potential investor. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Should I schedule a press presence? James shook his head. No cameras. I want to see who she is when she thinks no one important is watching. Vanessa was sipping champagne in her opulent office when her assistant, Margot, buzzed in. Mr. James Montgomery would like to meet with you tomorrow. Says he's interested in a design collaboration for his new youth center. Vanessa's eyes widened. James Montgomery was a billionaire, but more importantly, he was untouchable. A man whose projects changed communities. She adjusted her pearls and smiled. Tell him I'd be delighted. But behind her composed demeanor, Vanessa was already strategizing. If she could land this collaboration, it would make headlines. Charity worked wonders for reputation, even if she didn't care about the people behind it. The next morning, James entered Vanessa's lavish showroom. She greeted him with a rehearsed smile and a fake warmth. Mr. Montgomery, what a pleasure. James smiled back, studying her. I saw your Bentley yesterday morning. Splendid car. Shame about the mud. Vanessa's face stiffened. I believe you splashed a young cleaning girl, James said, calm but piercing. You may not have noticed. But I did. The room fell silent. Vanessa faltered. I didn't mean anything by it. Just, a misunderstanding. James stood, looking her directly in the eyes. Miss Wellington, I came to see how you treat people you believe are beneath you. Because I won't fund a project that's built on the backs of the broken. He turned to leave. Vanessa's voice trembled for the first time. Wait. But he was gone. Later that day, Emily was mopping the lobby when her manager called her over. You've got a visitor, he said. Some guy, said his name is James Montgomery. Emily's heart stopped. She stepped into the hallway and saw him, tall, kind, and oddly familiar. Miss Carter, James said warmly, I saw what happened yesterday. I was, deeply moved by your grace. Emily flushed. I'm nobody, sir. No, Emily, he said, voice gentle, you're exactly the kind of person this world needs more of. He handed her an envelope. A scholarship, he explained. Full tuition. Housing. And part-time work at the youth center I'm opening. If you're willing. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. Why me? Because I see you, James said. And it's time the world did, too. News traveled fast. Vanessa's incident had been caught on surveillance and leaked anonymously. Within 24 hours, the footage went viral. #MudAndMoney trended on social media. Thousands of people shared Emily's story, appalled by Vanessa's arrogance and touched by Emily's dignity. Vanessa's PR team scrambled to do damage control. Charity events were cancelled. Clients pulled contracts. Her company's stock began to drop. In her mansion, Vanessa watched the news, her empire slowly unraveling. She never thought an invisible girl could bring it all down. But it wasn't Emily who ruined her. It was her own heartless act. A week later, a letter arrived at Vanessa's estate. It was handwritten. Dear Ms. Wellington. I forgive you. Because hate only makes people smaller, and I refuse to shrink. I hope one day, someone lifts you the way Mr. Montgomery lifted me. Emily Carter. Vanessa read the letter 3 times. And for the first time in years, she cried. Not out of fear. Out of shame. Months passed. The Montgomery Youth Center opened its doors to thunderous applause. Local news covered the story of the young girl whose story had inspired a movement. Emily stood beside James, now a student in social work and a youth mentor at the center. Vanessa came quietly to the opening, standing far in the back. No one noticed her, except Emily. Their eyes met. And Emily smiled. Not with smugness, but with peace. Vanessa returned to her office and cleared her schedule. She began volunteering at shelters, silently, without cameras. She wrote letters to every staff member she had mistreated. It was the start of a new chapter. Not for fame, but for healing. She had once thought kindness was weakness. Now she knew it was strength. A year later, Emily sat on stage at a youth conference, sharing her journey. She didn't speak of revenge. She spoke of resilience. Of forgiveness. Of how one act of cruelty couldn't define her, but one act of kindness could change everything. In the crowd, a woman in pearls listened with wet eyes. Vanessa clapped louder than anyone. And James smiled. Because the girl with the mop had become the woman who cleaned the world, with her heart.